Welcome, everyone. Delighted to have you all here, and I'd like to present our current Keck Fellows, and you are, of course, potential Keck Fellows. I'm Dr. Catherine Statler. I'm in the History Department, and along with Lindy, the two of us oversee the Keck Undergraduate Humanities Research Fellows. And so what we're going to do today is I'm going to ask our current fellows to introduce themselves. I'm going to ask them a couple questions about why they became Keck Fellows, what intrigued them, and then a little bit about their current projects. And then we want to make sure we leave plenty of time for questions for you as well. This is being recorded, and so you can always refer back to it. It'll be available if you have any questions. And I'm pretty sure all our current Keck Fellows would be willing to answer any specific questions you have as well. So you could come up to them after and ask them specific questions. So I'm going to start by asking each of our Keck Fellows to give us their name, year, major and or minor, research title of your topic, and then your research mentor. And I'll remind you if you forget all that. But name, year, major, minor, research title and topic, and research mentor. So we could just go down the line if that's okay, and we'll pass the mic as we go.
Hi guys, my name is Grace. I study English with a concentration in creative writing, and I have a minor in comprehensive music. My research project is the soundscapes of heaven and hell in Dante's The Divine Comedy. My advisor is Dr. Maura Giles Watson in the English department and medieval and Renaissance studies.
Hi, my name is Carly O'Rear. I'm a senior music and theater double major with a minor in political science. My research topic is rethinking authenticity in Shakespeare's musical comedies, and my mentor is Dr. Carissa Noble through the music department.
Hi, everyone. My name is Delaney Batter. I am a double major in art history and political science, and my project is titled Symbol and Sovereignty, Propaganda, Power, and Medallions under Louis XIV, and I work with the wonderful Dr. Derek Cartwright over in the art history department.
Hi, my name is Patricia Munoz, and I'm a double major in English and philosophy. The title of my project is The Nature of Metaphysics in Poetry, and I'm working with Dr. Crumley and also Dr. Clack.
Hi, my name is Yesika Menera. I am majoring in psychology and sociology with a concentration in law, crime, and justice. My research title is How Housing Insecurities Impacts Women under Dr. Santiago.
Hi, my name's Erika. I'm a behavioral neuroscience major, but my research project is in the sociology department. I do it with Dr. Thomas Reifer, really awesome guy, and my work is titled Medicine in the Pursuit of the Good, the True, and the Beautiful.
Hi, I'm Sydney Rios Bruner. I'm a philosophy major, political science minor. I'm a senior, and my research is titled De-Anthropomorphizing Intelligence, Rethinking Artificial Intelligence with Baruch Spinoza. And my research mentor is Dr. Darby Vickers of the philosophy department.
All right. Thank you, everyone. That was great. So I'm going to ask you a couple questions just to share some of your experiences for the crowd here. And we'll go through a couple different questions, and then we'll get questions from them as well. So the first question is, how did you come up with your project idea? I think just the kind of, how did you get from an idea to here? So I'm going to just make it easy and keep going down the row if that's okay. So how did you come up with your project idea?
I took a class. It was for advanced integration, and it was with Dr. Turner Nevitt, and it was a class on Dante's The Divine Comedy. So the whole semester we spent our time going through the Divine Comedy and doing in-depth text analysis. And I noticed the presence of sound and music in it and its effect on me as a reader. And then I found out about the Keck, and I was like, okay, I could combine like the two things that I study, which are music and literature, specifically poetry, which is of interest to me. And that's kind of where I hit the ground with it. So yeah.
I came to my topic through my mentor, Dr. Noble. I needed another music history credit to graduate with my music major, but those classes tend to only be offered in the same time slot every semester, and I had a different required class for my theater major in that time slot, so I was panicking a little bit, and I was like, Dr. Noble, I don't know what I'm going to do. So she suggested I do an independent study with her, and we were just going to pick a music history topic and do an independent study that semester. I was going to do a deep dive on it, and then that would count for 3 credits for my major. And then because I was going to do that anyways, she also suggested to me, hey, you could become a Keck Fellow for the same project, and we could expand upon it, and you could do research and travel that goes along with it and get a personal stipend as well. I was like, that sounds really great. So it was because of Dr. Noble, and she knew about my interest in theater as well and my love of Shakespeare, that when we were picking the topic for my independent study, we were like, well, we should do music in Shakespeare and how that works. And then when we were like, we can expand it to talking more about interdisciplinary humanities and add traveling, we added the element of me going and seeing Shakespearean performances and talking more about the philosophy behind it as well.
For me personally, as I mentioned, I'm a double major in art history and political science. I specifically like to focus on French art, and I like to focus on the other side on political philosophy. And whenever I tell people that I'm a double major in these 2 things, it's kind of met with confusion on how they interact at all. And for me, there's always been such a strong intersectionality between the 2 of them, which you get to learn when you take some of these art history classes here or these political philosophy classes here. And so this was kind of just a natural progression of me trying to prove my wider point that the 2 can coexist very nicely together. It is very important to study. So this was kind of how I took that to the next level.
So I'm also a double major in English and philosophy, and it really came down to interest. I took a class on metaphysics with Dr. Crumley, and I just thought it was so interesting. We focused on time and the nature of our existence, and I just really found it so interesting. And I also took a class on poetry with Dr. Black. He's not here right now, but I really, really liked it. And I wanted to find a way to kind of bridge these 2 interests that I had in a more formal academic structure. So I talked to one of my professors who had suggested to me that I could do the Keck Fellowship, which would allow me to bridge these 2 disciplines together and study them together.
Okay, so as you know, my research is on how housing insecurities impacts women, and I have a personal connection to me. I grew up housing insecure. I was in a lot of welfare programs, even to this day, and so being able to examine, like, so I'm a psych and social major, so to be examined the psychological background, like the trauma, the PTSD within it, all these different experiences that women can experience, but also the social policies and like all these theories that also tie into it. And so, like I said, I'm a psych and social major, so be able to like blend those, I think they go hand in hand very, very well. So being able to examine like this issue, this public health issue, that's like a really big issue within the United States, to be able to examine both like the psychological lens, but also the sociological lens, definitely opened my eyes, and Keck is perfect for that. And McNair Scholars is the one, shout out McNair, is the one that sent me the Keck Fellowship as well to be able to apply.
So my work critically analyzes how medicine is consumed and learned in classrooms. And my interest in this topic pretty much arose based off both personal experiences in healthcare and a global observation. So my personal experiences in healthcare were pretty challenging, and I noticed that my doctors struggled to provide the care that I needed. And it wasn't because that they were doing it out of bad faith. They were practicing in the best faith possible. So I became curious about how do doctors learn about medicine and what factors in social and how institutions can affect that type of education. From a global lens, I became interested in how trust in science, trust in medicine is at an all-time low. But if you think about it from a scientific perspective, we really know how to do science. So I come from a STEM background, and we really do a great job on how to do STEM. We really make sure how we do research. But if we're doing such a great job in science, why don't we trust the sciences? So I'm really interested in how we can really bridge that trust again.
For me, I did an independent study in philosophy my junior year spring, and I really loved it. I loved being able to pursue things I'm passionate about, and I knew I wanted to continue doing research, but on a different topic in philosophy. And as you all know, AI has become ubiquitous to daily life. I mean, it is everywhere. You can't escape it. And I started reading a lot of articles about claims being made about artificial intelligence, claiming that it was sentient, that it was conscious, that it was outperforming human beings. And to me, this seemed absolutely absurd, especially from a philosophical standpoint of, how are we defining mind? How are we defining consciousness? What does it mean to our understanding of human nature if an artificial system can outperform us? So I decided I really wanted to deep dive on that and bridge it with the history of philosophy, and specifically Spinoza, just because of personal interest. And he's like a panpsychist, so his philosophy of mind is really fascinating.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So I want to talk just a little bit about the interdisciplinary humanities themselves and sort of pose that question to you all. And I just want to make sure everyone in the audience knows. So the Keck Fellowship is open to all majors, but of course the focus is interdisciplinary humanities. And so my question, and you don't all have to answer it, but if anyone wants to take a stab at this, what do we mean by interdisciplinary humanities? Does anyone want to give an example in your own research, or what is it we're doing with these Keck Fellows here? Anyone can answer it. Oh, Sydney wants to go.
I feel like this is an easy question for me because I'm bridging computer science, which I had never studied in school before, and philosophy, which aren't necessarily the most natural pairing. But interdisciplinary humanities for me identifies what's at the core of all learning, because nothing exists in isolation and every discipline has intrinsic connections. And in focusing on that, we become stronger learners with a wider knowledge base. So that's what it means to me.
Thank you. Anyone else want to speak up? Yeah.
Well, humanities is the study of, it includes a lot of different academic disciplines like language arts, art history, anthropology, philosophy. But I mean, I'm focusing on English and philosophy, which is kind of like the study of values that make up ourselves and the way that we interact with the world. And it's just approaching fundamental questions that we need to examine in order to really see the ways that we can approach them in our daily lives. And so I feel like when I study English and philosophy, and I study philosophy or metaphysics and poetry, I'm able to really see the ways in which that we are looking at these broader contexts in a more narrow scale.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah? Do you want to chime in? Let Carly chime in?
Thank you. I think what's really interesting about interdisciplinary humanities is that you're probably already doing research in it or study of it without even really realizing it. It's like when I started my project, we're talking about musical theater and history, which are 3 disciplines already, but they feel so intrinsically connected to each other, even without the label of interdisciplinary on top of it. But it's any research project you're doing, any sort of class you're in is already talking about everything in such an intersectional way. And my project wouldn't make any sense if I didn't go into the historical or political background of Elizabethan England. It wouldn't make any sense if I didn't pull from modern philosophers who are interrogating the work. So I think picking a project that is multifaceted in a way is probably a lot easier than you might think it is, with the maybe what could come across as a scary label, but it's everything you want to study is already so interconnected. So that was kind of my take.
Thank you. Oh, I got another. Erika wants to get in there as well.
So in my work, we're actually reading a book called The True, the Good, and the Beautiful. Personally, I think the good, true, and beautiful rolls off the tongue a little bit better, but this work is really amazing because it helps define what is it to be good, true, and beautiful, where good helps you guide action, what's true guides thinking, and what's beautiful guides feeling. I really think that helped clarify what it means. to explore the humanities. And ultimately, I think some of the best research experiences come out of like personal experiences, like what Yesika was sharing. She shared that she experienced housing insecurity, and that ultimately inspired her to explore these types of knowledge. So I think that's a beautiful part about the humanities, is that you can really tie it to what it means to be human. Also, coming from like a STEM background, I think what makes it more exciting about the humanities is that just the fact that you can do this, because STEM, we kind of treat it as some ritualistic entity. STEM, I like to see it more as a method, as a tool to explore what it means to be human.
Right. Thank you. So I have I guess it's a sort of follow-up question, because we're sort of moving into how your own research reflects this interdisciplinary nature of the program. And so without going into every detail of how your research has evolved, has anything unexpected come up in the research process, or anything that you sort of had to renegotiate as your project has evolved, or did you really sort of shift away from where you thought you were going? Anyone want to take that one? Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Grace.
I feel like I'm probably the best example of this. When I applied for the Keck, I was, in addition to studying Dante, I was going to do something with Milton's Paradise Lost, because there's a prevalence of music with that as well. So I had a really wide breadth of what I wanted to study. And as I got into like the literature review process, like reading all of my sources, I was like, okay, I'm really in over my head. Like, there's no need for me to be dipping my toes in everything. So I picked what was most interesting to me, because it's a long-term project. Like, you're going to be working with this for a year. So I found, like, as I did my reading and research, I was like, this is what's most interesting to me. So I'm going to stick with that and like do a deep dive into that. So it changed a little bit from my application to what I ended up, my final project would be.
For me as well, I think there was a lot of different iterations of my project that I've seen over time. I traditionally have a lot of experience in painting and French painting, so this is something I thought I was going to do, and especially in the realm of propaganda. And I actually found these medallions that were published to be really, really interesting, and I've never worked with materiality before. And it's kind of a whole new process, especially when looking through archival files and seeing the effect on widespread dissemination and ideologies. And I've had so much fun, even though that sounds so nerdy, I've had so much fun looking at these very old coins, but it's a completely new material and new realm for me that I haven't had the experience with in my undergrad thus far. And I'm really glad to have had the opportunity to kind of add this new cornerstone to a broader art history, where I've just kind of focused maybe on one medium thus far.
Okay, so initially when I did start this project, like 2 years ago, because I was a McNair scholar too, or I am a McNair scholar, I initially wanted to look into domestic violence. And like that was like my main research idea before I got into housing insecurities. But then as I was doing research within that, over 25% of women who are homeless, it led because of domestic violence. And so then that told me, I partnered with Santiago, and Santiago's like, let's look at this different type of trauma, because homelessness and housing insecurities is seen as its own type of trauma. And so that's how I kind of just kept rolling and rolling. And so then when I got into Keck, I was like, how am I going to turn this into humanities? How am I going to turn this into interdisciplinary? And so then I was really, really nervous. I remember that. And I was like, okay. So when talking about the literature review, we looked into the history. We looked into so many different areas, which can be social justice. It can be like the welfare queen, all these different things from history and social policy back then, which then kind of tied in. And then when I started conducting these interviews, it was like more through an ethnographic perspective, which then ultimately taught me a lot about what these women go through, how they're treated within the welfare system, the trauma that they go through housing insecurities, and the ongoing cycle within this government. And it's a current issue. Like we're more likely to become homeless than to become rich. Like we're one step away, unless you have like that general wealth or whatever it may be. So it is a very current issue that kind of does pertain to everybody, because it is a realized issue. I mean, over 500,000 people in the U.S. alone are housing insecure or homeless. So it's a main issue, but it's also, there's a history to it, and there's many different facets that go into it. So, yeah.
Thank you. Do you want to go too?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I think for me is just basically being able to adopt some of the philosophies that I've learned throughout my reading. And speaking of reading, so again, coming from a STEM background, I am not used to this amount of reading, but I wouldn't want it any other way, just because I've grown so much as a reader, as a writer, but more importantly, how to speak and learn the language of science and being able to translate what it means to communicate in science. And I think that's been the most rewarding process, being able to adopt those philosophies, being able to communicate better.
All right. So I have sort of a follow-up question to that question then, besides this sort of unexpected. How has the structure of the fellowship itself? So we do a monthly meeting, you have various tasks as we build this project. And so how has that either helped or challenged your research, the nature of how this fellowship works itself? Anyone want to tackle that one? Yeah?
I think the monthly meetings have been a very helpful structure to have in place, mainly because the project is so spread out and long. There are some weeks when it definitely gets pushed a little bit more to the back burner than like other papers or assignments you have coming up for classes that have more immediate due dates. But having the monthly meetings come up, and also the weekly meetings I have with my mentor, were maybe the most helpful thing in keeping my progress consistent, because I'm a person who like really needs due dates to get stuff done. Having those monthly meetings and knowing I needed to show up with a deliverable or an update or just anything to say was a great motivator in keeping my work on the project a little bit more consistent throughout the year.
The deadlines have also been really good for me because it holds me accountable. The monthly meetings are really good because we're able to come together and learn about each other's projects and kind of get some feedback from our cohort. Also, I think that meeting with my mentor, Dr. Crumley, every week is really, really helpful for me because he has me writing a lot, and I'm producing a lot of work, and he tells me, it's okay if this writing isn't really going anywhere, if it's not entirely great, because it's getting ideas out. And as I'm getting ideas out, I'm able to see, maybe here's an idea that I can pursue a little bit further. Maybe this is something that's sparking my interest. And so as I'm writing more and producing a lot of work, I'm able to see how my project is kind of moving around, developing, because it really has changed a lot since when I first started. I thought that I was going to explore 15 different poets, and I really was pretty set on doing that. I thought that I was going to learn about this and this and this, and then find metaphysics out of each of these. And I kind of realized that this is a lot of work, and even focusing on one poet is just so much work. And so I think without the writing, I wouldn't have been able to realize this, and it's just continuing the work.
Right. It's revise and kind of figure it out. I mean, that's the way you get the year for it too. Well, kind of along those lines, the kind of last general question I want to ask, and then I'd love to open it up for questions, and then you can expand on any of your previous answers as well. But what do you consider to be then the benefits of the fellowship? So, and I'm hoping you can talk, because I know so many of you have traveled, you've used some of those research funds, you've presented at conferences, you will be presenting at conferences, but what you consider to be the benefits of the fellowship. So, Yesika, you want to start?
So the first thing I'll talk about is the funds that you get, not just the stipend, but you get two sorts of funding. You get funds for supplies that you may need. So for me, I didn't use it too much, like books and recorders, because I did interviews with these women and some type of programming. But you also get another fund if you're going to conferences, if you need to go look at some artifacts or anything like that. And so I used that fund. I got accepted into the American Law and Psychology Conference this past March, and it was in Puerto Rico, and that was a great conference. I was able to present there, and it had to do a lot with what I want to do, because I want to do psychology and kind of the forensics way too, and that also ties in with sociology as well. They just all go together really well. But that was one great opportunity. I was able to go. I met a lot of people. I networked. I was able to present my research. I got a lot of great feedback. And also it's Puerto Rico, so it was a great time. It was during spring break. The weather was great, but besides the point, I wouldn't have been able to do that without Keck. Like, that was a great opportunity that I would probably never experience again. And without Keck, like, that wouldn't have been an option.
Thank you.
I think another strong consideration is just the ability to get to pursue something that you're super interested in that maybe you're not getting the opportunity to do otherwise in the classroom. This was something that I found super interesting, and I wanted the chance to learn about it and research more. And it just happened that the classes I've been taking, and while I enjoy them so much, just didn't really give me the option to pursue this very specific niche thing that I found interesting. And so through Keck, it gives you, as Yesika was saying, the funds, and it also gives you the support from faculty and from your professors who are going to give you resources and guidance and books and research to look at, and you can kind of fully pursue this outside little passion project of yours in this kind of protected way. And I think that's really incredible and really like a great experience. And then I got to go to the Getty and to LA and the special collections and the rare reading room. And I think I was only able to do that to say, you know, I have a research grant and I'm here to conduct this research. And it opened so many doors for me to get these really cool experiences that I still use now when I'm applying to grad school and saying what I've done. And so it kind of continues on even further to get to, you know, kind of say you've had these really great experiences.
Thank you.
So while I love the sciences, Shiley, the STEM building is kind of like in the armpit of campus. And if you work in a lab, it becomes even more lonely. So being able to come to these monthly meetings is so refreshing to like hear the different projects that really are all about human exploration. Sometimes it can be a little bit like isolating, having to just focus on like the experiments in front of you. But it's really nice to hear that we're also exploring other avenues and endeavors.
We're good. Should we open it up to, well, I want to take the time then now to open it up to questions you might have for any of the panelists. So anything about their research experiences, what they've done with the Keck Fellowship, conference presentations, anything else you want to ask?
Yeah. How did you pace yourself? Because I know part of it is like going into it, you're supposed to have a plan. I just want to know like how much do you follow it and like how do you get yourself between like writing and reading and working everything out?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Well, that was one of my initial kind of approaches to starting this project. Is at first we had to come up with a monthly kind of schedule, like, okay, September, October, November, this is what I'm going to do each of these months. And for me, the way that I did it, since my project is mostly just a lot of writing and a lot of reading, I said that, okay, the first semester, I'm just going to read so much. And I worked with my mentor to help me choose some books that I wanted to like read. And he knew the discipline, so he knew like which books to pick out for me. And so I just read a lot. I took a lot of notes. I was annotating. And then I would write just like kind of like a little bit of notes like as I was reading, but you know, it wasn't really anything like substantial. So then this semester, I started like actually using all of these notes that I had, and I knew so much information. There was just like a lot to just piece together. So it was really easy to just focus on writing. So I was kind of just doing one thing at a time. It's a lot of work to just try to do everything all at once, and it kind of gets like scrambled around. But when you focus just on reading for a while and then you just write for a while, then, you know, like you have like support to help you as well.
Thanks. Ooh, anyone else want to, take that one?
So my schedule that I submitted when I did the application, didn't look at it when I started the Keck project again. What I did do, though, is when I met with my mentor at the beginning of the fall semester, is we went through and kind of made a more precise schedule of deliverables. For me, I really do love deadlines. And also part of my project was going and seeing shows in person. So scheduling out when I was going to go on those trips and fly or drive to where I was going to see the shows. And then fitting that into my research as well. And I kind of did a similar thing where all of last semester I was just seeing shows and reading literature and reading books and writing notes and just kind of compiling them all into a Google folder database that I could go back to. And then I ended the semester by writing my abstract for my paper, so that when I got back this semester, I've now been in my writing process, expanding my abstract and doing any additional research I need to fill in gaps that I have. I think splitting it up into a research semester and then a writing semester is maybe a good way to go about it, especially if you want to keep yourself on track. And then the writing process goes a lot faster and a lot smoother if you already have all of your stuff to pull from and you're not doing too much of both research and writing at the same time.
And the one thing I'd add to that is making sure you find a mentor you really want to work with. So
Yes.
I think everyone here would say that that is critical. It's someone you think you could either you have a relationship with, you can develop a relationship with, who is going to keep you on task and is excited for your project, that your mentor is enthusiastic about it as well. So that would be something to think about too. Is that fair to say? We would all, yeah, okay. I mean, that's the sense I've gotten over this past year. Other questions? Yeah, I think there's one there, and then one here.
What's the process for choosing a faculty mentor, and how do you choose one that's going to best align with your research and who you are?
That's a great question too. Sydney, you want to take that one?
For me, I went into this project a little arrogant. I've never taken computer science classes. I had a general base knowledge of artificial intelligence, but I knew I would need to find someone who specializes like in this discipline. So I went to the head of the philosophy department actually, and I asked if anyone was working in techno-philosophy, AI, computer science, anything like that. And that's how I found Dr. Vickers. And she was really great because I also, for the time thing, don't forget you have the summer before. I started my project like at the end of my junior year because maybe my case was a little different because I had to really learn a lot about like CS and stuff. Like I taught myself how to code in Python over the summer, things like that. But I think like reaching out to heads of departments or professors you already have and like explaining your topic of interest is a great way to network with people you've like never met, never taken classes with before.
Thank you. Anyone else have a different approach to figuring out a mentor?
Yeah. I love my mentor so much. Shout out Dr. Noble. This is being recorded, so maybe she'll watch this. So I created my project topic with her because I did already have that strong personal relationship with her, and her specialty is music history. She's a music historian. So kind of starting off at the baseline of like we have a great student-faculty relationship. We know we're going to enter into a project together, and that we already kind of have like the baseline of, okay, we both know we're going to do our work and can kind of trust each other in this process. And then from there, collaborating with that mentor to expand the idea. So I think they're a great resource if you have a professor that you just love and that you would be excited to work with a project on for a year, to just approach them from the get-go and be like, I want to do this. I think that I want you to be my mentor, and have it be a collaborative project for the two of you as well. Because it's your project, but they are going to do a lot of work in helping you shape it as well. So yeah, if you just have a favorite professor, even if they don't know anything about this fellowship at all, it would be worth asking them.
Just as a little aside to add on, also, if there's someone that you want to work with, that even if you've never met before, approach them, have someone in the department introduce you. If they've published something that you find really interesting, if they teach something that you never got to take, but you found it to be really interesting, if you've seen them cited somewhere. I personally actually hadn't even met Dr. Cartwright before I started working with him. He was recommended to me by one of my other professors. He has become so integral for me writing my thesis. He helps me get an internship. His name is thrown around every day by the people there that love him. He's been such like a huge impact, and he's so well respected in the industry, especially in art history and all of that. And so it's been an incredible opportunity, and I actually only was able to kind of form that with him through this. And so, yeah, if there's someone in your department and you're like, wow, I'm so impressed with what they've done, go and talk to them and ask them, and that could be a really great opportunity for you to start working with them, and you never know where it leads.
Thank you. Question here.
Yeah, what is actually like the process? Like you basically find a topic that interests you and then you research a lot about it and write a paper? Like how does it work?
Want to take that one?
I mean, I think it differs depending on kind of what you're looking at. For example, I mean, I'm like super research writing based, you know, as some others. And then I think others are maybe a little more like statistical analysis, it seems. And I'm sure that the way, and they can speak more about it, the way you present it, I think would also differ depending on what you're kind of doing. I'm producing a paper, but I don't know if that's the same for everybody.
I think everyone in this group has a paper, but with some, there are like some visuals with some, it sort of depends on the actual topic. So is that your question?
So do they conduct research too? Like
Yes.
Kind of like a whole study?
Yeah, so it's independent research is what everyone here is doing one way or another. And then those monthly meetings, they're sharing their research. Each meeting is sort of, I mean, I'm forcing them, and I will force you to, you know, hey, what is it I'm doing? What's your title? What's your outline? What's your, you know, what are your favorite secondary sources, primary sources? Are you going to apply for a conference? You know, all these things. And then when we get to the spring semester, they're turning in pages. They're making sure they get pages or whatever data they're providing to their advisor and to me. And then that culminates in a final project. So they're all doing a presentation of their projects at Creative Collaborations next Thursday, if anyone's interested, between 1:15 and 2:15 at the library. And then, so that'll be kind of the visual presentation of it. And then you also do end of the year presentations where you can invite friends, family, professors. We do that in May as well. So that's the kind of that culminating end of the year event. Yeah, please.
I've also heard of, I didn't see this project or know the person who did it at all, but there was a theater Keck Humanities Fellow who made a type of performance using the funding that they received, along with writing and research that went along with it, that made a sort of physical product in that way. So there's a little bit of wiggle room. Like it's still going to be a research project and it's still going to have a deliverable writing at the end of it. But there are ways that you could twist it a little bit.
I mean, it could be a documentary. Like there are quite a few. It could be a website. There are quite a few options. I mean, it's flexible. It just so happens this year everyone's got a pretty heavy sort of research and writing. But there have been alternatives to that as well. Absolutely. So we're flexible about that. Other questions?
Is the deadline for this research before the semester ends, or is it like, does it kind of go close to grad school because some of you are seniors, right?
So it's 1 year, but I know, so for example, a student I worked with last year, she did the project her senior year, and she parlayed that into her application for graduate school. And she was and she said, well, I want to keep working on this as a PhD, and was successful. So, and now next year she'll be be in the Notre Dame PhD program in history. And that came out of the Keck Fellowship. So she had so you could do it your junior year and continue to work on it your senior year. But the fellowship would just be for the 1 year is how it's set up. Yeah. You can't then get the fellowship the next year, right? So it's a 1 year fellowship. Does that, yeah, okay. Anyone want to add to that? We're good. Okay. Other questions that people have? Anything else? Is there anything you all want to add? Then we're almost out of time. But anything anyone wants to add in terms of people applying? We're clear. The deadline for next year is April 25th. You fill out the application online. It's on the website. It's, I think, pretty explanatory. Does anyone want to say anything real quick about just how you applied last year in terms of just setting up your project? Or Erika, you want to?
Just have your books ready, like at least have an idea of what books are related to your topics of interest for sure.
As they're doing the application. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So your application needs to be specific, right? That you have a clear project in mind and a mentor, and it's not a research paper, but it's, you have to articulate what it is you're trying to do in that application. Yeah, absolutely. Any other suggestions for the application itself that's due April 25th? So you have some time to think about it. I think what I'd love to do, if there are no more questions, is if you want to approach people individually, if you have any questions for them. I'm happy to answer any specific questions you might have. You can always contact me. My information's on the website. My email's kstatler@sandiego.edu. And Lindy's available to answer questions as well. So I think I'll just do a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you. And then thank you to our audience. And then if you have any questions, if that's okay with you, just for a couple minutes, if you have any direct questions, just come on up and ask. And otherwise, I say we're adjourned.